In 3, 2. Hello. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. My name is Andre Nagel, and I'm your host. And today, I am bringing another special friend of mine. It seems like I just keep bringing on friends onto this thing, and the thing is why not?
Why not, right?
Why not have a nice general conversation, open conversation, with some that you know, but that can lead to also figure out new things that you didn't know before. So today I have here with me today is Kaelan Jones, Florida native, graduated from Coral Springs High School, led his journey to Colorado to wrestle for about 5 years after high school, wrestled for college, which did also lead him into his profession now as a professional strength and conditioning coach.
I like how you said that. Professional.
Not
coach.
Mediocre, not just a strength and conditioning coach. It's professional at Drew Strong Performance in Deerfield Beach. Kaelan, bite your fucking lip, dude.
I can't do that right now. Not for the audience.
What's up, my man? How's everything?
It's been all right.
Yeah?
Just
Getting ready for...
It's getting ready for the new year,
Yeah.
right? Just having different expectations, different goals lined up, and just trying to, just take myself one step at a time to get better.
Yeah.
Because really the goal isn't about being being perfect, but more just about being consistent, enjoying the journey, progression.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And it's, I can't really say anything else about it,
Yeah.
Just
You know what's funny? It's like usually around this time, me personally, I apply so much pressure upon myself to be more than prepared for the next year. And I feel like sometimes that kind of holds me back because it doesn't allow me to see or allow anything to come into my life that will subconsciously prepare me. Because I feel like when you have a vision and you're trying to really dive deep into it, you only focus on so many things that you don't really look at the outside perspective.
Yeah.
And there could be something that you learn along the way that you didn't think you would that could really elevate your progression.
Yeah.
So, nonetheless, we go way back.
Yeah.
We go way back.
What is this, like middle school?
Middle school?
I think Miss Kimbrough's class.
Something.
I think that was homeroom at the time, right?
That was Kimbrough. Honestly, I wish I could remember. The only people I remember is just like the teachers that were just really sus. Like Miss Hoffman.
Oh my God.
Miss Hoffman.
Get me started on that.
Oh my God. She was something else. Oh my God.
I'm convinced that she hated me up until I got to high school because I went back, I want to say like either 9th and 10th grade. I went back to because in middle school, like I think the tide that really turned for me was the fact like they still had the EOC classes at the time, right? And so when I took those EOC classes, it kind of made me have a different perception on application.
Yeah.
So when I started to kind of like change and like transfuse my whole mindset, it wasn't really up until we got to high school that I was like, wow, like everything just started clicking. But when I went and saw her, I was like, look, like, I'm so sorry for how I acted. I was a little immature. Granted, I was still like 14, 15 at the time. Yeah. But, I went and apologized just for the simple fact of like being a class clown. Because like, I feel that when I was younger, you can kind of say everyone can kind of speak for it. Like, I was very, let's just say.
You were a character.
I was a character. I was out of pocket. To some degree, right?
Some degree. I mean, like, for certain people, it's probably a lot, but then I think for the people that really knew you and that were close to you, they're like, nah, this is him.
Yeah, this is me. And so, like, I always get into conversations with my girl because, like, even when we go out or, like, we stay at Angels and just watch the fight, she's like, how come you never talk to me like you talk to your boys? And I'm like, because it's just different.
It's so different.
It's just like, I've known you since like 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
We're coming up on like what, 13, 14 years?
Something like that. I know there was like a time when you went to college. Obviously people do go their own ways. Yeah. But usually when you come back around, I wouldn't say it's entirely different, but I think it's now more. I mean, I don't want to be cliche and say it's like mature,
Yeah.
but I think it's not as like playful
Yeah.
as it used to be,
Yeah.
which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously when we're all around our friends, we're able to be ourselves and to fuck around and do weird, gay, dumbass shit with each other, as all guy best friends do.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I kind of experienced with you recently was kind of like your intense personality of business and your way of thinking. Which I kind of did express to Angels. Like, I don't think I've had a conversation with you like that where we kind of really buckled down, didn't really fuck around, and we kind of managed to have a very professional conversation about certain pursuits that we want to kind of fall into.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you were always a funny dude, especially on fucking Xbox, bro. Xbox, I used to die playing with this motherfucker, bro. it fucking good ass times, man. Xbox 360.
Oh yeah, that was probably like one of the best times. Like, had it not been for that, and I still stand by it. Like, I know like everybody right now and like, you know, society, they have their whole outlook on like video games and stuff. But like, truly, because you wouldn't believe it, but like, I was actually an introverted kid, and I'm still am to some degree today.
Yeah.
But really, it wasn't until like we got. And like we just built that bond all between each other. Like everybody, you know, they kind of like went their own separate ways.
Yeah,
but like we kind of had that consistent connection with each other. And then I feel like with video games, it just enhanced.
Oh yeah,
it enhanced that. And then it just now it's like, now we look back on it and it's like, it's unbelievable to see that, you know, we've had this friend group for so long. Like we're talking like 10 plus years, 20 plus, you know, getting into that point.
Yeah.
And it's like people would kill in this day and age just to have someone to talk to, you know, just to have someone to be around, just to have someone to just, you know, just cut up, act a fool. And then sometimes, you know, like you said, like once you get past that stage of like that friendship role, now the expectations and everything starts to change. Cause it's like you get so caught up in thinking about what makes this person wholesome, when in reality, like we as human beings collectively, we all need to have a community. We need to have that group of individuals to where we can just do whatever we want, but also understand that there's expectations and boundaries that are set behind it, you know?
Yeah. And that's something that we touched based on before. It's like as friends in a relationship between your friends, it's just like a regular relationship almost. There can be a point where there's stagnance and it kind of doesn't go past that. Yeah. Where I feel like we all have collectively grown within ourselves and been able to express it to one another to kind of allow everyone to be on the same page in what pace we're trying to reach and what goal we're trying to pursue. But you're right. It's like expectations do come into place, because if I'm trying to put in the work, I do expect my friends to also do the same. Yeah. Mainly because it's just a matter of outgrowing people sometimes. Yeah. And that's what happens. And obviously it's a hard thing to overcome, because one, you don't want to look like the bad guy. Yeah. Two, you don't want to look like you feel that you're better than this person or anything like that. It's like, no, I'm moving in the direction I want to. Yeah. And I feel like we should all be on the same page and move at the same direction. Not saying we have to go down the same path, but the direction I'm talking about is going up. Yeah. And not trying to fall back or try to stay where we're at. Yeah. Because I think it's important for that to be vocalized between, like, amongst us, so no one's really being left behind or kind of like in the dark about it. Yeah. Because obviously let's say there's 6 of us, and then one of us is kind of not really applying himself. He's kind of just hanging around, and everyone else is really putting in the work to do something. Yeah. It's not like it goes overlooked, but it is noticed, and I think there's like a shift in energy with that person, because no matter what, you can hang out with all those people all at once.
Yeah.
But like, let's say, for example, you go hang out with this one person and all they do is smoke, drink, and just play video games. Yeah. They have like a regular job, which is okay. You're working and all this stuff, but it's hard to have a conversation with that person sometimes.
Yeah.
Other than kind of reflecting on past memories or what they did that day or that week. Yeah. And if you're not really kind of pushing the ball where it's, what are you trying to do? Do you need help with anything?
Yeah.
What's the next step is like anything like that. And I know me personally, I have this conversation with my brother a lot. My brother's like 16. He doesn't know what he wants to do, which is okay. I didn't know what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like 100% didn't know what I wanted to do until I was like 22. So for him to be at 16 and kind of really just playing it out, just doing his thing, just going to school, playing video games and just working, awesome. Yeah. As long as you're not doing crack or just fucking blowing guys for like weed and shit.
Not to say that there's anything wrong with it, but
no. If that's what you like, that's what you like.
Yeah.
But yeah. So being a professional strength and conditioning coach, what really guided you to pursue this career outside of wrestling? Because you did wrestle for quite some time in high school and college.
Yeah.
At one point, was there like a pivot in career choice?
Well, originally, I mean, just to kind of give people a background, like I was born into a very athletic family.
Okay.
So my dad, sport athlete, high school, dual sport athlete in college, played basketball, walked on to Florida State. Sister, she played for Mankato, Minnesota, was a rugby captain, all these facets, wow. Right? So it was versatile. Yeah. So for me, like, even when we were growing up, like, I didn't really spend that much time doing a lot of physical activity. So, like, you become fat.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, I wasn't really insecure, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do outside of playing games, right? I didn't really have a direction. And it wasn't until after I got out of high school where I was just like, wow, like, I really felt this shift in energy. But going into it, when I ended up going to Coral Springs, you know how like they did all like those little like the recruiting process, like they did like the little freshman orientation, stuff like that. And so originally I was like, yo, you like, let me see what this is about, da 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 da. And so one of the kids at the time, I think it might have been like Denard or Angel, or I don't even remember, but I remember walking up to this little podium and like seeing this little flyer and everything, and I was just like, huh. And I'd never thought about wrestling. That was the interesting part. I never thought about getting into that like that just sport in general. And then when I got into high school, like instantly I fell in love with it. And then shortly thereafter, like I started making some rolls and jumps here and there. And then I had the opportunity to wrestle in college. And so with that, like I said, like the turning point of senior year going to freshman year of college, especially going out of state, it was just crazy.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, one thing led to another. Like, I knew I wanted to pursue athletic training to some degree, but I didn't know if I wanted to be, like, an athletic trainer. I didn't know if I wanted to be in, like, physical therapy, things like that. Because, like, I always had this intrinsic piece about myself that I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to solve some type of problem.
Okay.
Right? And so with that, as I started to endeavor off into like my career path and even with wrestling, like it wasn't until like I kept getting not injured, but like I would have little injuries here and there, right? And after a certain point, I realized that, hey, like I know I wanted to be in this field, but what is it that I want to do specifically? And then I realized that prior to all of this, I actually loved lifting weights. Okay. Like I was I was still doing that in high school and things like that. And even when you're in college, like you have a set regimen and things like that. You have to wake up. And so once I got back from Colorado, I ended up taking a year off from school. It was a long story. Just I had a falling out with the school that I was at the time. And one thing led to another, and so it just resulted in me having to feel lost, you know?
Okay, yeah.
And so, like, coming back down here, living with your parents, all that stuff, like I ended up getting a job at a Yard House right down the street over here. And I'd never felt such humiliation ever. Like,
in what sense?
So like, not to say that working those type of jobs is bad. No, it's to say that like you go from being something to being essentially quote unquote nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, the money was good. You know, you're getting stuff, you're figuring stuff out as you're going through the industry and things like that. And then as you start to realize like the mindset that people had and just being around just customer service, like it has its double-edged swords, right? It has one motive to where you're able to help people, and then on the back end you got to face backlash, right?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really until that point where I was like, you know what, I gotta change something. So I had some stuff happen at that point in time, and all of a sudden, like, I just had this itch for wrestling back. So I ended up hitting Kaiser up, and they reached out to me. They offered me like a 2-year scholarship. I wrestled over there. Nice. And got my bachelor's in health and human performance. And honestly, like, it wasn't really until like I got to Kaiser that I was like, okay, I think I'd like the strength and conditioning stuff, because like in JUCO I never had a strength coach.
Okay.
And
really?
Yeah, honestly, like you would expect that with some of these programs that they would have some type of standard, but it really wasn't much. Like,
it was really just go do what you know, and then
yeah,
we'll just help
essentially.
you kind of like,
and so it was like, and so part of me being an athlete at that time, I had to increase my performance. I had to learn how to cut weight properly. I had to learn to do all these different things. And so it wasn't until like I met my strength coach. I think his name was Padilla at the time.
Okay.
It was Padilla, and then I had another coach, Coach Jazz. And really it was those two coaches that kind of paved the way for me to get into the strength and conditioning aspect. And then right when I was getting ready to finish up my senior year, I had saw that there was an intern application out for the company that I work for now. And I applied for it. I was just like, you know what, let me see where this goes. And so I get a phone call and an email from the lady who was doing the directing of the time. So we talked everything, and I had an interview, and I met with my boss, Phil DeRue, and I was just like, this is I can feel.
You feel some type of connection.
I feel some type of connection, not just in like a very like
vague way. No, it's like
it's like wow, like
something here is kind of reaching at me, and I'm gravitating towards it.
And so, right, I took over the internship. I was by myself, and for me as a professional coach now, looking back as an intern, being around all these UFC fighters, Bellator, MMA, PFL, you know, even college athletes, even NFL athletes, NBA guys, like it just really opened my eyes. Like I was already around that type of individual growing up because my dad was a consultant. Okay. So being in that field by myself, it was like, wow, like I'm around all these killers, literally. Yeah. And so for me, like having that combat background, I felt that interpersonal connection with them because of the fact like, okay, like I was helping.
You didn't feel out of place.
Yeah, like I felt like I belonged 100%. Yeah. Like I had sparred a few times, did some stuff here and there, but like it wasn't really to the competitive look as it was on wrestling. So yeah, going back to it, like I just helping all these fighters out, you know, getting one person after another, and I did some long days.
Yeah,
like,
I bet.
I'm talking like 5 a.m., finishing up all the way to 7, 8 p.m., sometimes even 9. Wow. And like for me, it just really, I appreciated the value and the lessons that it taught me going in as an intern, because I mean, shortly after, like I got the job, I got the opportunity to become a coach. And so my first role was helping one of the high schools down in Broward, I want to say Blanchile. Yeah. And so that first step, it kind of just like, it paved the way for me to really see like
the longevity,
the potential, the opportunity, the growth, and things like that. And so at the time, I was just figuring out how to get all through with this, learning how to program, learning how to train football kids, learning how to train MMA fighters. It's like all facets of life. Yeah. And then after that, I was like, wow, like this is really universal, right? And what I mean by that is like, it doesn't matter if you're an MMA fighter. It doesn't matter if you're a general person.
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah.
Does like the same fundamentals of training like an MMA apply to the same as if you're training a soccer player or basketball?
Yeah.
Or anything like
And
that?
I mean, like, and I was having this talk with someone the other day that, how is it that the same way a quarterback can snap a ball and throw a ball can be to the same replicancy of an MMA fighter throwing a cross, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I broke it down for them, like, okay, like even though that these sports have their specific means, and when we talk in programming, right, they only have about 4 to 8 weeks till they have to get ready specifically for their camp or for, their fight, whatever. But the common denominator is that the movements, the patterns that go into human movement itself is all the same. It's just a matter of how it's applied based on the individual or based on the skill, right? And for me, like being able to break that down, even from a simple standpoint, because they teach us that you can't overwhelm people with a lot of information, because what happens is that since we're only able to retain a certain amount, our brain just gets flushed. Yeah. And it's like, wow, like what the hell just happened? Mm-hmm. So I have to really sit down and process all this exponential information
and dumb it down.
And then dumb it down.
Yeah.
So explaining to someone, okay, like how to use their hips in a deadlift, or learning how to crush your lats in a bench press, like even when we were training for a little bit, right? Just those little things are what can enhance a person's ability to unlock other aspects of their body that they didn't even know that they could have.
Yeah.
And I feel that with that point too, it also applies to life. Like the more that you learn about yourself, the more that it's going to take for you to expand on your journey, right?
Yeah.
Because I like what you were saying earlier, like our goal collectively as human beings is to reach that top. But the way that I look at things now is that everything's in a horizon, right?
Yeah.
I have 3 people to the left of me. I have 3 people to the right of me, right? And then the paradox of this is that we're all moving toward the same sun, right? And because of the fact that it's so illuminated, there's so much more opportunity, right? So these 3 people, one side and on the other side, I can see both ends, who's coming with me and who isn't, right? Because of the fact that either they're standing next to you, walking alongside you, or they're falling back, trailing back, And I think that's just the paradox of life. Like the more that we start progressing in life, not even just career-wise, but just as people, the more that we start progressing, we start to outgrow the people that are around us. And that kind of goes back to the point of what you were saying, right? Like I never experienced the type of mindset that I've always had a very detail-oriented mindset. Yeah. But now that I started being around professional athletes, celebrities, things like that,
you see the difference in approach.
I see the difference, and it's very illuminating to me, right? Because it's like when I'm talking to people about business, even when we were talking, like something that takes a person 2 to 3 to 5 years to figure out, I solve in a matter of 20, 30 minutes. But I had to spend those 20, 30 minutes of my time breaking down the information for months and years. Yeah. All without the help that you would usually get. Like, you're supposed to get all these different things. Like as an entrepreneur, you know this, like it's hard to do things by yourself when it's just, you're just having one direction that you're going in. But in reality, if we take it and we break it down, like, we can have a particular niche, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact of what we're doing within this particular niche and then how we can facet it on to other aspects, right? Yeah. And it's insane because I never saw it that way, even from a coaching standpoint, because when we go into programming, when we start doing stuff for fighters, it's like, okay, when you apply that same analogy from before to their programming, it's nothing any different. It just comes down to the fact of what they're trying to do specifically within that camp. Yeah. So if I'm trying to build an athlete based on their explosiveness or mobility, or trying to help them have a better mental state of mind leading into camp, it's the same fundamental as, you know, that walk, that journey toward the sun, right? Because what that's going to do is that it's going to tell this individual to the right of me saying, hey, you know, this guy's helped me so much in this process, you know, I'm going to follow him wherever he goes. Not in like he's a dog, but it's a loyalty thing. And it's just establishing that loyalty, that camaraderie, that trust to keep that pace going forward. And for me, it just kept cycling one after another, and it just became so, what's the word? It became so versatile for me to figure out, like at 24. But now it's just that piece of like what I was saying from the beginning, like that application. Now it's just applying it to myself, because I'm helping everybody, right? And we kind of get stuck in that. We help everybody, but then we sometimes lose that help within ourselves. So it's taking those little things, the little details, and then segmenting it into this whole frame, and then being able to funnel it down into a position to where now you're able to exercise a decision. Now you're able to create some type of process. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day as an entrepreneur. It's a process. So as long as you're shifting toward that direction, and you're making sure that you're hitting those goals, not in like a quarterly manner, but even on a daily manner, like waking up, you know, brushing your teeth, you know, putting your clothes out.
Small things make up for bigger.
Absolutely. So it's like, it's taking those little things and then writing them down in a journal and saying, hey, like, I accomplished this today, I accomplished that. Like, and I actually told this to my lady the other day, like, since I started journaling, that has just changed my whole mindset completely, because now
it's structured.
It's structured, and it's like that quote unquote manifestation.
Piece. And I feel like it's also a reassurance to yourself that, like, I'm doing what I need to do in order for me to have a productive day, and that can help me improve 1% more. And that's one thing that one of my friends said recently. I feel like he heard this quote from something else, but it's, if you try to improve 1% every day, within 1 year you've improved 365%.
Absolutely.
And it's like, as simple as that sounds, it really is doable. It's achievable. Because I mean, I feel like for certain people, they don't really know what to improve on. And I think that's where it becomes tricky. But if there's like one, let's say, niche, right, that you want to get into, and there's one thing that you're kind of getting out of your comfort zone to try and see if you can improve in that region, it just kind of starts following. Like, everything else that follows is experience, confidence, application, and knowledge. So it's really interesting that you put all this to perspective, because for me personally, how like I would see it is, obviously wrestling can lead to so little careers in a way, and just like any sport, because I feel that, like, what you were referring to when you went to Yard House is you felt you went from something to, like, I was a college athlete, I was a wrestler, competitive athlete and all that, to now I'm working at Yard House and I feel like I'm not doing anything. I feel like nothing almost. But it's crazy to see in what direction you kind of like really pointed to and fully throttled in. And it kind of just shows that there was something that you tapped into probably when you did start wrestling that kind of just became a long-term thing for you. And it didn't really have to pertain just to wrestling. I think it was just like you said, you always had this nick to help people, how to solve a problem for something. And to apply that with your experience in not only athletic training, but also the application of knowing how to dumb things down for other people to understand so they can execute themselves either with or without you. I think that makes a huge difference. So starting from your career to where you're at now, what is something that you wish you would have known in the beginning?
Man, these are tricky questions. What are you doing to me right now?
It's just to know, because I know me personally, when it came to filmmaking and everything else, I wish I would have practiced a lot more.
Yeah.
And did my research, because school is not really, it's not frowned upon, but it's not praised in the filmmaking society.
Yeah.
Like, if you can get experience, if you can go on production and you can get that hands-on experience with people, and let's say you're trying to be a cinematographer, you're trying to be a gaffer, you're trying to be a PA, you're trying to be a director, anything like that, the more you're on set and you're in the field that you want to be in, the more you're going to learn quicker.
Yeah.
Because every person I've asked who is 10 plus years in production, they'll say some went to school, some didn't. The ones that went to school said, like, you don't have to go to school.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it could be different for you,
Yeah.
just because it's a different field of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, what's one thing that you wish you would have known beforehand when you're getting into this career?
Really, all it was that the one thing that I didn't tap into was getting a mentor. Right.
That's one thing,
and
too.
that's the biggest.
I agree.
That's the biggest thing, right? Because it's like we live in this culture right now to where a lot of young entrepreneurs, they have this mindset to where, okay, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to
figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to figure it out type of thing, right? Without any really clear direction. And so what happens is that either it goes north or it goes south. And it's like, okay, if it went south, you know, what did you do wrong? What steps did you do to create that risk, right? But at the same time, risk creates reward. Like, the more risk that we take upon ourselves to get stuff done, the more that we're going to reap at the end. But that also has to come with the fact of you have a plan, right?
Yeah.
But based on the plan itself, you got to have someone that's already experienced it, right? And so for me, with my boss, like, he's taken me under his wing, and now I'm in this position to where you just can't overlook the process. You can't stop to think like, oh, I'm just going to be a 6-figure coach, or I'm going to be a 7-figure, whatever the case might be, right? It's a process, and part of this process has to do with the fact of you're undulating on a consistent basis, right? For me, it stemmed from this point of where, okay, because I have a mentor right now, and multiple mentors across the board, it makes me stop and question, one, what steps am I doing to enhance my career while also learning how to take risk? And that's what the biggest point for me right now is that we're taking risk, and that's what my mentor is teaching me right now. Like, you're taking risk based on the fact of a calculated decision, right? And that calculated decision can be either done on the fact of you're following something through, you created a strategy, you've done this campaign, and then you're taking the action to get it done.
Yeah.
Or you're kind of just winging it, following through, and just like, oh, well, I'm just going to kind of get this done one day at a time. But it's like, in reality, if you're not putting in the work, if you're not doing what is expected of you, not only just from a job standpoint, but from a human-based approach, it's like, what are you doing at that point in time? That goes back to what we were saying originally. Like, we find a lot of people that are striving to be good, that are striving to be great. Either they're living or they're existing, right? And that existing process is a very scary thing to look at, because it's like, I know a lot of people that are just existing right now.
And I feel like it's people subconsciously fall into that, because I feel that there hasn't been a circumstance in their life that's made them really look at themselves and where they're at. Because I know that a lot of things that people do that make them shift is really due to experience and circumstances. Yeah. Because if you're growing up and you're just quote unquote existing, you can exist for the whole time till you're dead. And that's because there was nothing that really sparked a change of perspective.
Yeah.
And that's where that really stems from. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, me personally, I wouldn't know how to kind of spark that into people, other than kind of just really telling them how it is. But sometimes people can't interpret a conversation like that properly.
Yeah.
Because it seems like you're attacking them.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like really open their eyes in a way.
And part of that too, and I see this all the time, that when I'm engaging with people, even on just like a conversation, I actually had a conversation with my client the other day, and he talked to me about like, oh, well, I used to think about wanting to train 6 times a week, but in reality, I feel like 3 times is good for me. And I asked him, I'm like, why? He's like, oh, I don't know. It's just like I had this expectation in my mind that I wanted to follow through and I wanted to be consistent. And then I realized like life started setting in. And so the way that I explained it to him was that like, okay, the way that you look at training 3 times a week, let's put that into comparison of someone that's doing it for a living.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're calculating, let's say even from a college standpoint, right? Like we were doing 2-3 times practices a day in a week, and sometimes we would even do it on the weekends. So your 3 times a week is my 15, right? And now you add that, or no, you multiply that by 30, I'm putting in 450 plus, depending on whatever it is that I'm doing, whether I'm learning how to play this instrument, whether I'm learning how to work a camera, or just things like that in that nature. So now you're training your body to really put in the reps, put in the time frame.
Yeah.
And now when you take it back and you start to dissect it, it makes you realize like, wow, like what I'm doing is good, but it always can be better, right? And that's the reality of weight.
There's always room to improve.
There's always room to improve, definitely. And it's like I've done it at that level to where, I'm on go all the time.
Yeah.
And then now as I'm settling into like this coaching aspect, and obviously I still want to compete. Like I still want to jump into some tournaments and maybe, mess around and do some MMA. But it's taking that approach and understanding that there are only a handful of people on this earth that can do what you strive to do. Yeah. And the way that they do it is because of the fact, like, I think I told you like last week or something, like the people that are doing that, this is their livelihood. This is their job. This is what they have to do.
This is how they make a living.
That's how they make a living.
That's where the perspective is totally different.
And it's so limiting because, you take one person that's trying to dissect the fight, like just a regular Joe Schmo, like, well, Conor McGregor didn't do this, or let's say Islam knocked him out way too early. He could have. But in reality, like when you're putting yourself through that tense state, even though I've never fought competitively, I understand that adrenaline rush. And you've probably felt the same too when you were still competing at the time. Like that little piece that you've put in so much more time into, the reps, the hours that you spend, the injuries, the nagging pains, things like that. It all plays into this factor of where that nanosecond of, Oliveira getting hooked, that's what separates the fight. And then when you try to explain that to someone that doesn't understand fighting or understand sports to that capacity, it can be a little bit challenging. But really, at the end of the day, it just stems from the fact of how are you going to, put in the time when you don't even know how much time they're putting in, And it's okay, But the goal really isn't to put in all this time for nothing. It's to prepare your mind to challenge resiliency, to challenge how to overcome just adversity, right? And it's more than just about like being a fighter. It's more than just about being an athlete or, all these other things. It's about longevity. Yeah. Like longevity is the real pursuit of success. And that's what I started to realize now. And so this universal concept that I've just taken in, not only just with helping people, but being the bigger person, I always want to give back to someone. I always want to share some type of knowledge with them because of the fact that this is something that should not just be contained. It needs to be spread out. It needs to be expunged into the universe because who knows? My idea may work with your idea. My actions might benefit you because of the fact that now you want to take more of an exercise or a more structured risk with how you're approaching life moving forward. And that's just, I don't know. For me, I try to not talk in circles with it all the time.
Yeah.
But it riles me up because it makes me so passionate that I just love. I love.
I can
people.
repeat myself.
Yeah.
And still apply the same energy that I said it the first time, because like you said, you're passionate.
Yeah.
So then when it's coming to expressing it to someone, it's sometimes it doesn't click right away.
Yeah.
And that's why the second time it comes around, is it going to click? Or third time it's going to come around? Because I don't know if you've dealt with athletes who you've tried to help them improve, but it kind of doesn't click with them right away. So it's like you have to keep pushing that onto them for it to really settle in.
Yeah.
So by all that being said, the one thing that you were talking about in the beginning is what you wish you would have learned or knew beforehand was having a mentor.
Yeah.
And the mentor does come into play. It's a big factor in success.
Yeah.
Because of course you can be the 1% that found it out himself and made it work, or you can really fall in line where there's someone that's doing what you want to do, giving you the blueprint for you to follow along. If you don't want to follow along, that's on you. But the thing is I feel that with certain mentors, they hold a lot of accountability towards you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where, like, especially in strength and conditioning or any type of fitness coaching, when a client comes to you and they say, I want X, Y, Z, and you tell them, okay, you need X, Y to get to Z, right? Like, how hard are you on those people that try to do it the easy way instead of kind of just like really sticking to the basics, the fundamentals, and really like, I won't say mastering, but improving and getting to a point where it's become second nature to the now we can progress to move to where we can go to get to Z.
So it starts with the X, right? And that's, you can call it step 1, you can call it step 10, you can call it whatever, but at least when I'm training people or when I'm introducing them to a new way of bodily mechanics and things like that, you start with the assessment, right? That's the main procedure.
Yeah.
Before you start lifting weights, before you start getting into maxing out, right? You got to understand how to move. Yeah. Right. And so for me, when I take them through that process, I'm looking at all these things. I'm looking at their gait movement. I'm looking at how they walk, right? I'm looking at how they hinge, their squat patterns, things like that. And then we start to dilute it more into not feeding into what they want, but giving them what they need.
What they need.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, since I've been doing this so many, for at this point, 3 years, it's taken me to realize like, okay, I can pick up things that I wasn't able to pick up on when I was first starting.
Yeah.
Because I've put in the reps, I put in the time, and that goes back to everything that we were saying. And so when I start to engage with people on getting them into a direction, right, part of it is that you kind of have to like, you got to give them little bits, strips, right? Like say if someone wants to, I don't know, let's say if a football player comes to me and they want to learn how to get fast. All right, well, I got to see how you run.
Okay.
Right. If I have someone that wants to lose weight, what are they going to do? Okay, come to me. But it's not to say come to me just to come. Yeah. But I
come here to learn and apply.
You come here to learn, you come here to apply, and then you come here to have an experience, because really it all comes down to an experience.
Yeah.
Right. If I was to never train a person and ever again, like say if I was to leave this earth right now, everybody that I've trained or have coached or whatever, they would remember me based on the fact of the things that I've helped them grow with, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever the case. So my impact that I have with people when I'm taking them through that assessment is understanding, like, you got to make sure that you carve out the X, right? Because when you get that X and then now you try to turn it into a Y, like I think Drake said it, like you turn the 6 upside down, it's a 9, right? You can create that funnel, you can create that process just based on the fact of what it is that you're doing, if you understand what you're doing, right? And so for me, when I'm talking to people about, what it is that they want, yeah, I'm listening to what
Yeah.
your wants are, because, everybody wants the same thing. It's either I want to lose weight, either I want
to look like this.
Yeah, they want to look like that. And so it's like, okay, I understand what you want, but let me tell you politely what it is that you need.
Yeah.
Right. And then you give them what they want based on the experience and who you are as your authentic self.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, when I'm coaching other coaches, like right now I have a kid that's like 19. He just became a coach now underneath us. And so luckily he was able to pick up on it quickly, but there's some around here that it takes a while for them to pick up on.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. Like everybody has different levels of communication and acquisition, but it just comes down to the fact of what it is that you're trying to provide to an individual and how much they're able to retain because of the fact of what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Right.
I see.
And so with clients, it's,
I feel like it's hit or miss.
It's a hit or miss.
It's a hit or miss, but I think like the ones that really do buckle down and listen, I think it's probably the most fun. And I guess just like the best experience you can have when having like someone that's really retaining all the information that you're saying and applying it and showing it to you day by day, and you're able to see the progression with that person and be like, damn, I'm actually helping, and I'm seeing like what I'm able to provide and where it's getting this person to. So now they're reaching step by step and have reached step 10, all because they really buckled down and did 1 through 3.
Yeah.
How I told them. Now it's getting easier and easier and easier. Now it's like, fuck, I've created a monster.
Yeah, and it's like it's amazing to see, like, because like I look at it as like a project. Yeah. Right? I don't like
you're my little toy.
No. But no, like I look at it as a project because it's like, people kind of have this bad rap with trainers that like, oh well, they're just out to get your money. They don't know what they're talking about. And it's more than just about that. It's more about, what type of experience am I able to give you based on that first impression? Because it's like, look at dating, for example, right? People go on Tinder to do whatever on Tinder, right? So the way that you look at Tinder is equivalent to when you're trying to quote unquote sell someone, right? So it's understanding what it is they want. It's understanding the expectations. It's understanding how to approach them in the manner, because their whole feed is what they're giving you, right? Yeah. The bio, their features, things like that. And obviously, like, you're going to have a preference, right? And for me, like I said, it's usually athletes, but I'm taking on all walks of life. I'm taking on little kids. I'm taking on, moms. I'm taking dads and everything. Yeah. And so you have to be very versatile in your approach on how you're
flexible
and how you're talking to people, because really it just comes down to how you're communicating. And that's really all that coaching is. It's if you don't know how to communicate to someone,
you'll never get through to anyone.
You'll never get through to them. And so that sticks back on the point of like that existing process. Cause it's like when you have people that are just existing, they don't want to listen to what it is that you have to say. They'll hear you, right? But they're not listening because
and if you show them.
And if you show them, and that's another thing too. Like if you're giving them visual evidence to say, okay, this is what this can do for you because of the fact that this has happened for so many other people. Mm-hmm. They're still not going to believe you because of the fact that it's too good to be true, or there's things that are going to happen in this case, right? Yeah. So it's putting those things into perspective and understanding, like, okay, how do you overcome rejection? How do you overcome little things like that to help you and better improve your ability to not only progress but also give that person the experience that they want, that they need.
Yeah. So coming back down to that, it's obviously we all have our trials and tribulations when it comes to our career. We make a lot of mistakes. We've done great things, and I'm pretty sure you've experienced all that. What would you say is like the biggest failure that you've experienced that's really shifted your direction in your career?
What's crazy is that it started before my career. I think I said it earlier that when I was leaving Colorado, and I got that job at Yard House, it really shifted my perspective on what it is that I wanted to do. 'Cause like, even though I was making money, even though that I felt secure at that point in time, I was still depressed. I was still like, why am I here? Yeah, I'm making money, I'm doing all this stuff, but really, is this benefiting me?
Yeah.
Right. And then when I see the people around me, it just kind of like it brought my energy down. So I needed to find like-minded individuals to uplift me.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not to say like I gravitated toward like bad energies and stuff, but it's saying that,
You're a product of your environment.
you're a product of your environment. And so with that, right, I would have thoughts that I wouldn't normally think about having, and that's
Interesting.
and that's a really big thing too. And
Yeah.
I actually have one of my buddies who he actually works around here, and I tell him all the time, like, part of this process has to do with the fact of how much output are you putting into this particular piece of your life, right? If you're trying to be optimistic all the time and you're around a group of pessimistic people, 9 times out of 10, you're going to start thinking and behaving like them because of the fact that that's how their mind is.
Exactly.
Right. And it's to say that in order for you to get away from that environment, you have to inevitably change your surroundings. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously that comes with taking risk. The more that you take risk based on the fact of you getting out of that environment and trying to find something new, even if you're not confident that it may work, you still do it.
You still do it.
Because of the fact that this is what can help you inhibit more of a loss rather than, okay, I take that risk and then it becomes great. Right. And that's kind of the approach that I had with it too, is like, I felt like I took an L because of the fact, like, I didn't have my shit straight. I didn't have a lot of things that I needed at that time or wanted at that time to really help me grow. And part of me kind of thanks, my family, everybody that was supporting me throughout that process. Like, I thank you guys because of the fact that, you realize that even if that situation might have been the best for me, it wasn't the best for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so because that it wasn't that case, I had to force myself to turn in a different direction. So I had to learn, how to communicate with people. I had to learn psychology. I had to learn how to, become human, because all my life I was operating as one distinct thing. Like, I had a personality. I'm very charismatic.
Yeah.
But I never used it in context of dealing with, general day-to-day people other than, hey, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Right. And I feel that with that failure of me losing that opportunity to wrestle for that period of time, it really shifted my thought process into more open to the world.
Yeah, it's more like survival instinct in a way, because I feel like you're in wrestling, you're doing all that, and I'm not saying it's a comfort state, but it's just like it's all you know. And it's all you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And then when you're taken out of it, it's like, fuck, what else do I know?
Yeah. And
do I know?
And that's the thing that you see with, like, let's say NFL athletes, for example, right? Like, when that's all that they do, when they're starting from Pop Warner, starting all the way up to high school, the college, and everything else, now when they suffer a career-ending injury or when they retire, oh shit, what do I do now?
Yeah, what value do I provide?
And if that's all that you know how to do, that's
you limit yourself.
You're limiting yourself, right? And for me, I had to learn how to divulge out of that mindset of just staying, I'm Kaelan the wrestler, right? I had to become Kaelan is Kaelan.
Kaelan. Yeah.
Right. And it's still progressing, right? I'm still learning the nuances and things of, like, how to coach and how to still be within that realm.
Yeah.
But it's now I've gained the sense of appreciation that, like, I honestly want to fail for the right reasons and not for the wrong. And so based on that, I have to put a lot of pressure on myself to really make shit happen. Because at the end of the day, no one's gonna help me get to that point. No one's going to help me chase that dream or chase that ideology of saying, like, I want to be able to take care of my family. I want to be able to have this nice car. I want to be able to have however much money in the bank account. Like, it's little.
I want to be able to have a choice.
I want to be able to have a choice. And universally speaking, I want to be remembered, right? And the stuff that I'm doing right now, like, I feel that people are remembering me little by little, and then now as years and years and days, a whole 9 yards. As everything starts going by, now it's going to be like, wow, like even us, like we're sitting down having this conversation right now. Look where that can go in 5 years. Look where that can go in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's something that we have to live for, because there's moments that we just have to live in, that have to experience.
Yeah.
There's certain moments that we have to experience to where we have to have that sense of genuinity, that appreciation.
Yeah, you got to plant the seed.
You got to plant the seed, and then you just have to let it grow. You have to watch it grow, but you have to take care of the seed, right?
You can't just say, all right, I'm planting it. All right, I'm going to go fuck around and not do what I'm supposed to do to help it grow.
Yeah.
And that,
it's just like, people that, even with us right now, like this is probably like the third conversation we've had like exclusively with each other. Mm-hmm. People, unless they see me in like a different role, they don't see me as like how you still see me, like when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Like they see me as, oh, well, you're the coach, you're confident, you have all these things. And it's just like, it's cool.
It's part of that.
It's part of that. But I also have to be, I have to be neutral in my approach. And I also have to delegate when certain mistakes are made, because it's like, if I take a client or some type of athlete and I take them through a particular exercise and they, like you said, they start getting frustrated, I have to be able to condense that down for them and break it down into a way that makes it make more sense for them within their realm.
Yeah.
And it creates this, this barrier where, okay, instead of me getting frustrated, instead of me having to, stop the workout or the exercise completely, we go through this process at our facility called auto-regulating, right? Okay. If auto-regulation was to occur in everyday life, we would be able to fast track our goals in a more suitable way that benefits us. So rather than getting stuck on, okay, if I can't do this, I can't do it, versus, okay, I can't do it right now, but at some point I'm gonna get around it, right? It's finding those little obstacles that you're trying to shovel, you're trying to pick to get to that next point, to get to that next breakthrough, because really that's all that it comes down to. It's just being able to break through that next step, because as we keep growing, as we keep evolving as individuals, human beings, and everything else, it plays into this factor of, what are we doing right now to benefit the other person next to us? Yeah. And that's kind of how impact. And that's how I see life as is. Like, I don't care about, in this case, being a professional strength coach. I don't care about, having all these MMA fighters talk to me and, we're just having chit chats and stuff. Like those moments are really what come down for me, as I'm able to help this person, because you never know what a person's going through. You never know what they may be experiencing or what they may be lacking that needs to be filled, but also doing so within reason. Yeah,
for sure.
So
dope, man. I mean, nonetheless, I feel that it seems you're really, really indulged in your career, and I don't know where you're trying to grow from this point, but from what I've experienced, hands-on, what I've seen and what I've heard and what we've discussed, it just seems that no matter what direction you go in within this career, you're going to come out on top. And it just, like what I referred to in the beginning of this, was like, I've got to see a different side of you that I've never seen before. And it's definitely developed a whole different level of respect, because I've already had respect for you before, but now it's like seeing like how you truly think and how passionate and how much discipline you have towards your career and what you do day to day. Yeah. It just really shows like, this is definitely someone I want to keep in my corner or keep around me, because I know at some point we'll be able to look back on this and be like, at this pivotal moment, that's when it distinguished, like, this person's really gonna do things with their life. And as I'm also doing my own part, we can always come back to in the middle and really just kind of express the fact of we've grown so much from like when we were kids to now, and furthermore, because like I said, there's people that you still are in contact with, and it still feels the same.
Yeah.
It feels like there's nothing really leading to anything, and it's like, I want you to climb up with me, but it's just like, I can't do all the work for you. So
I mean, with that, it's like, it's our responsibility, but it's not our responsibility.
exactly, like
right?
me being very optimistic and very vocal about if someone's good at something, and let's say they have an idea or anything like that, I'm very pushy about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's stopping you? Like, you have the support from your friends. You have the tools from other people that can help you get to that point. Like, what's really stopping you? And it's really all a moment of perspective and belief, and in terms existing.
Yeah.
Like, people are just existing where they're not really trying to live and reach a potential that they didn't know they had.
Yeah.
I think that's where friends really come hand in hand, and when you're being challenged, that's when it shows like this person really cares.
Yeah.
This person really wants to see the best version of me. So I'm going to apply the same energy, because I know if I'm not, then they're going to kind of be like, okay, I'm just giving almost.
Yeah.
Where it's like, nah, give and take. And now give and take is almost like building a bridge, where it's like brick by brick by brick by brick. And then it gets to a point, it's like, fuck, now we're on top. Now we can just fucking experience greatness together.
Yeah.
Feel me?
But it's the journey itself.
The journey itself,
it
makes a difference.
That's like the best thing that you can experience, especially like, guys, if you don't have friends, like if you don't have a friend, period, there's that lack of accountability that you're going to have when it comes to, one, motivating yourself, and then two, being able to execute properly. Because it's like, if you don't have, like you said, that circle of friends to where they're all keeping you accountable, but everything still feels like the same. Yeah. It's not gonna go. Yeah. It's not gonna go anywhere. And it's just like, you have to evolve yourself first, and then evolve as individuals in a collective manner. Yeah. Because it's like, really, at the end of the day, like you have to look at it from a team standpoint. You have to look at it from you have to look at it as, I'm not doing this because this is my boy. I'm not doing this because this is my girl or whatever. I'm doing this because this is an investment on myself. This is an investment on my the effort I want to put in to it. Yeah. And it's a responsibility that comes down to us as human beings to say, I have to help this person, not because that I need to, because I want to, but because I choose to. Yeah. And the more that you just look at life in that particular manner, the easier it's going to be for you to really give the world and then receive from the world. That's really like I'm on my Aristotle shit right now. So.
and we're not condoning we don't condone being a dickhead. Yeah. Like, it's okay to fuck around with your friends, and it's okay to just kind of like tease them a little bit, but don't be a fucking dick where you bring them down. Yeah. Just because like they're not on the same page as you are, or like on the same wave. It's really like, you can either help them out, get on the same wave, pretty much give them like different steps that they can take to get to that point, or you can support them from a distance. Yeah. And the one thing that kind of leads to that is just like, me personally, for a long time, I really was a very, I won't say selfish person, but I always kind of looked out for myself other than other people. Yeah. But then once that shifted, and it was like, no, this is like, life is bigger than just me. Yeah. It's really about the people around me. And it's like you said, it's like, I want to help, and I want to like impact these people and give them an experience that can help them along the way, whether we're still friends or not. Yeah. It's like, from what we did here, it can just lead you to a whole different part of life that you didn't know that you would even obtain to. Yeah.
So I got a question for you, actually.
Okay.
So, like, we've all had our friends and stuff. Like, we've been doing our thing, and we've been really rekindling that friendship. Yeah. Like, what what made you personally want to like step back into this realm? Because I know like with we had some things, right, that I mean, it is what it is, but
Yeah.
you know, based on us being around the friends that we were around and just being within that mindset and just that environment, ultimately, what made you want to, you know, rekindle this aspect of us?
Honestly, it was really a matter of I'm a very cordial person. I understand the circumstances really did create some type of like animosity and negative feeling towards one another.
Yeah.
But really, it was never ill intention.
Yeah.
It was never that. I understand that the circumstance was kind of like difficult to really interpret just because of how young we were and then like where you were at with this type of thing and then how I kind of just came in and really just didn't care about the outside of it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we all had our own shit going on
yeah,
at that point in time.
But I think the one thing that really kind of that brought me to this space of wanting to rekindle, I think it's a matter that one, we hang out with the same people.
Yeah.
And two, like I didn't really want any tension to be there.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know if everything was squashed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why like I kind of had that conversation with you that one time and it was just like, I don't know how you felt. Like I'm sorry, like anything like that. But I think like you said, it's just a matter of kind of experiencing life and really maturing in an emotional and intellectual way to interpret the whole situation as for what it was and not really kind of allowing it to contradict what the potential like relationship that you and I can have be able to evolve to.
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of that because I've always seen from like social media where you're at and like I said, never had any ill intention, never had any type of animosity. It was more just like
kids
shit.
We were just kids.
Kid shit.
Yeah.
So
and this is another thing too, guys. Like you have to be able to understand, even with like in a friend group setting, that it's more than just about, oh well, he did this or she did this and things like that. It's about understanding that at that point in time, it was at that point in time. At the end of the day, the potential that you have in building a future, not only just for yourself, but with the people around you, the people are going to carry you one way or another, right? They're going to come back into your life one way or another.
yeah.
And part of that, you know, you may not like this person. You may hate this person's guts, but really in reality, it just stems from the fact of being able to reflect first, to reevaluate, and then 3, reconcile, right? Because it's like, really, at the end of the day, we're all going to go through life where there's going to be some type of...
I like that, the 3 R's.
The 3 R's. They're But, yeah, it's being able to use those 3 concepts and then apply them to yourself, whether, you know, you have this animosity with somebody or you have this, you know, this tension going on. Like at the end of the day, like, boys will be boys, girls will be girls, that whole 9 yards of the speech. But really, in reality, it just comes down to a fact of, you know, we have to grow as individuals to see the future and what it brings.
Yeah.
Because you never know what can happen.
Yeah.
You know, like the other day, I literally just found this out. This is a random instance, but I was training one of my clients and I got ready to leave, and that park that sits right next to us, there was a shooting, and everyone speculates that he does all that 9 yards. So come to find out, like, I saw the video, and the video itself is it was gruesome, but it's just like, it was one of those things to where it's just like, wow, like this person lost their life because of this. And I don't want to like expunge everything, because clearly I don't know all the details. But it's just to say, like, a simple fact of a video, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words. A video's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't really know what could happen tomorrow or the day after
Yeah.
or the day after that. Because it's just like, it's sad. You know, you don't want to hear about things like that. And especially if it's someone that you know, at the end of the day, it's going to hurt you one way or another, because it's like you had some type of connection with them,
Yeah.
whether it was good or bad or whatever, but it's like there's a connection. And with that connection, it's to say, like, you know, damn, I wish I was able to talk to this person. I wish I was able to say this to this person.
Yeah.
I wish I was able to, you know, just the shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah.
But it's being able to reconcile everything that has happened and then be able to say, you know what? I respect the fact that you talk to me as a man, or anybody else. You talk to me as an individual that you are, and say, look, I fucked up. I'm sorry, you know? And now moving forward, we understand where we are.
Yeah.
But it's to say that we've reconciled, you know? And it's just to make sure, like, you know, you don't want to have that lingering thought in the back of your head, like, damn, like, I wish this, I wish I did this.
Exactly.
I wish I did that. Because it's like, it's just so many things that go on in this world, and
It doesn't let you be present.
It doesn't let you be present, because it's like your ego. And that's another thing that I was talking to one of my fighters about. Like, if your ego lets yourself get the best of you, because the way I look at it is that you have yourself, you have your subconscious, and then you have your ego, right? You have those three things. So if I was to, like, push you, right, and all of a sudden, you know, you get riled up, like, hey, what the fuck did you push me, right? That's your ego taking over because of the fact that you're being challenged.
Yeah.
Now, it's primitive in nature, right? But in reality, we're able to have that decision-making process to say, am I going to fool with this, yes or no, right?
Yeah.
And taking that and being able to control your mind, control your ego, that's the real big key factor with a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you can't get a hold of your own ego, like me, I have a big fucking ego. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I may not say it all the time. I may not exude it, but like, I'm into that. But I also have to understand what it's like to be humiliated, right? And I have to accept that.
Yeah.
Right. And if you learn through repeated behavior that your words don't reflect on other people, then it's going to be a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Because really, at the end of the day, you're going to put yourself in this bubble, and this bubble's not going to pop because of the fact that you refuse to let go of all that tension that's built within.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think that you know, because you think that you're better. When in reality, it's like, I don't want to feel like the person right in front of me is better. I don't want to feel like that I'm better than them.
Yeah.
But it's also understanding, like, you gotta be able to meet in the middle and be able to make sure that you're approaching someone with the diligence and the respect that they would like, but also that you're earning from them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, like, we out here drinking this Michelob Ultra Organic Seltzer. Let's get back to that.
So to end this whole podcast, I just want to know, like, is there anything in your profession where, let's say, there's like a myth that you would want to debunk, that, like, let's say a bunch of people come to you or they talk about it, like, with confidence, saying, like, oh, it's like this, and you're like, no, it's not. Yeah. Like what's something that you can debunk in your profession?
Ooh.
Like a common myth, a common misconception.
So sensational. But no. So since I've been doing this, right, a common thing that you kind of see with a lot of people is, like, taking supplements, right? Like, let's say creatine, for example.
Okay.
Creatine, people think that, oh, well, you know, if I take creatine, I'm just going to hold a lot of water mass and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you? Like,
what'd you say?
And it's like, you know, there's so many journals, there's so many scientific articles that you can read on the internet to really prove your point or prove someone else's point, to say, like, okay, well, creatine doesn't do this, or creatine does do this, right? But it's really to say, like, you need creatine in your life. Like, if you're trying to get big, take creatine.
Take creatine.
If you're trying to have a lot of energy, take creatine. If you're trying to live your best life, take creatine. Right. But I mean, there's so many benefits around it, right? It helps with energy blah, blah, blah. I can't even say it now. Just energy like output. It helps you feel good, right? It helps with a lot of red blood cell culmination. So there's just so many other different things that surround it. It helps you build mass. It helps you build strength.
A lot of
things
benefits.
like that. And, there's particular phases that you need to do it in or would have to do it in. But I would say just like, follow the label. 1 scoop is 5 grams, and put that in your water, put that in your Arizona iced tea, or put it in your ultra organic seltzer. But no, like creatine, I would recommend everybody get on the creatine.
Dope. So as we are coming to the termination of determination of what's next. What is next for Kaelan Jones in his career?
Is this like a 5-year question? Where do I see myself in 5 years?
Let's say for the next year, like what's one major thing you want to achieve that you've been thinking about, and it's kind of like, I don't think the time is right, or I'm not fully prepared, or I'm still learning, and the opportunity just hasn't presented itself yet.
Damn. I've been wanting to get into MMA like competitively.
Okay.
Like I've already done like I said, little sparring sessions in like Muay Thai or whatever, but that's just like, man, right? Like taking the time to really go into it 110%. But I don't I'm around that shit every day. Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of hard for me to differentiate between the two. So instead I'm like, you know what, why don't I just go into like a jiu-jitsu tournament? Or why don't I just like mess around?
Just fuck around, yeah.
Fuck around, do some stuff. Like, it's not to say like I'm a BJJ fanatic or like, I have all these crazy things that I can do, but it's just like this, I want to feel that rush again. Okay. I want to feel that like sensation of like, okay, like
you want to find that edge.
I want to find that edge. And it's like whenever I was wrestling or sparring or doing things like that, I always had that edge, and it just kept me like primitive, I guess you could say, because it's like, it's different when you're playing ball. It's different when you're running routes. It's different when you get punched in the fucking mouth. Yeah. And it's just like
when you bite your lip.
But no, like it's so different, right? Because it's like martial arts, mixed martial arts, judo, MMA, all that stuff, right? Like it teaches you so much about yourself to where it's like, not only just from a strength standpoint, but like you never realize how much you're able to tap into, right? I always have a lot of people tell me, like when we're out in the streets or whatever, oh well, he's a wrestler, so all he does is fucking grapple and da 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 da. Like, no, I like to say I have a little bit of some hands. Like I got a little bit, not obviously I'm not a professional fighter, but like
you have the coordination.
I have the coordination, and I have the understanding because I'm around it on a consistent basis. Yeah. But am I going to start something on the street? No, that's stupid. Yeah. Right. But it's to say like, okay, like there's still like that ego that surrounds like, oh, well, he's a combat athlete, he knows how to do this. He knows how to do that. And it's kind of just like, I want to not get back into that mindset, but I want to enhance my thinking with it rather than just like, oh, well, I'm a big bad this, I'm a big bad that. Just saying like, I want to feel that edge. I want to do that. And I feel like by doing like jiu-jitsu or whatever, I can really tap in and get back to that point and then be able to really reflect now being away from it for, I want to say like what, 2.5 years now? I don't know. I don't remember. But nevertheless, like it's just something that everybody needs to have. Yeah. Like you need to be able to feel that rush. So that way, like I said, the same thing with ego, the same thing that you got to be able to control your fight or flight. Because if you're in a heightened state all the time, granted it's sanctioned, but if you're in a heightened state, right, your thought process changes. Your thoughts, your feelings, everything else changes. It becomes tunneled because now you have to really focus on, okay, what do I need to do to bring the objective
and how to execute
it. And so it's just like, I gotta be able to like get that taste again. And it's probably it's just like at a point in time right now.
So you want to tap in back into that monster.
I want to tap in back into that monster, but I want to be able to control.
Okay.
Right. Like not go overboard.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But I wanna push myself to another level physically in that aspect.
You want to tap in, but with a more experienced approach.
Yeah, approach. And I mean, I got some other stuff that I want to do. Like, I want to get into really like the online coaching aspect.
Okay.
Like programming stuff, things like that. I've been doing that. I've been doing that for a little bit now, but like now, like actually exercising on the decision to do it and get it ran and everything else to go. That's something that I want to do. And I want to say just like, I just want to strive to be the best person I can be to not only myself, but to everybody around me. Because
Amen, brother.
Really, it's just like I said, I don't care entirely too much about making 6 figures or 7 figures. I know that that's going to come at some point in time, right? But the intrinsic motivation that I have is to leave a legacy. And I want to be able to leave that legacy to where people just don't remember me as a coach. They remember me as a brother. They remember me as a husband, as a coach, as a mentor, as all these different things, a son, grandson. And it's just, that's just the mark that I want to leave on earth if I was to leave right now. But I'm not going anywhere. So you guys are going to have to deal with me for a little while longer.
Fucks with it. So Kaelan Jones, everybody, Coach K, also known as Swifties, if you know the OG.
I haven't heard that name in a minute.
So where can people find you, my man?
You can find me on Instagram at coach.k_. Same thing, TikTok, coach.k_.
That's K with K-A-E, everybody.
Yeah, that's crazy because when we were starting this session, he tried to ask me what my name was. Bro, you should know my name by now.
So being a professional strength and conditioning coach, what is a service that you are able to provide to people that are wanting to test themselves physically and reach a new standard within themselves for physical attributes?
So like I said, I do a lot of one-on-one training, group training. I can do consults as well, right? And part of what I do, obviously, like I'm a coach, trainer, do all that stuff, but in the sense of where people come to me for advice, obviously, like I'm not the one to shy away. Like, hey, like if you want something, ask. But I mean, as far as that goes, like I said, my services is just one-on-one training, group training. I do a lot of like functional quote unquote training. A lot of hybrid training, little things. So you're not just sitting in one realm of like, okay, well, I'm just going to do bodybuilding exercises and all of the different things. Not to say bodybuilding's a bad thing. I love bodybuilding. Yeah. I need to get into it.
Yeah.
But that's another time. But no, I'm pretty multifaceted. I've worked with like a lot of strongmen, powerlifters, bodybuilders, MMA athletes, things like that. So it's being able to kind of like be very diverse in my understanding of how to train people, because really all that training is, I keep saying it, like training is just movement, right? You need to be able to produce movement to express art, right? And with art itself being the encompassment of movement, the more that you're able to take, a canvas and draw on it and then say that, these colors represent this, it's the same analogy approaching training, right? It's more than just about getting a dumbbell and doing bicep curls. It's more than just about, squatting down and squatting up. It's being able to understand how to create tension, how to do those different things. And it's,
Weird. So thank you, everybody, for tuning into this podcast with my man, Kaelan Jones. Thank you, brother, for coming out, speaking to me, and providing information and perspective to the people who are trying to improve themselves for the new upcoming year, 2023. Also, if you are trying to find us on social media, you can follow us at Welcome to the Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. If you want to reach out, you want to give us some questions, or you want to come on the podcast as well, you can contact me at welcometothe podcast@gmail.com. Once again, thank you, Kaelan, for coming on, and have a great, great fucking New Year's, and bite your fucking lip.
I don't want to let this go now. I can hear myself.
I gotta fucking piss.
Why?